The phone buzzed once, then nothing. Monica didn't look at it right away. She was standing on Jae Kim Sung's balcony, 34 floors above Philadelphia, holding a cup of tea she hadn't asked for. The rain had stopped an hour ago, but the city still looked like it was bleeding. She picked up the phone. Unknown number. No message, just a photo. June, asleep in his bed, white sheets, the stuffed rabbit she'd given him tucked under his arm. The photo was taken from above a downward angle, like from a ceiling vent or light fixture, close enough to see the rise and fall of his chest. Monica's hand didn't shake, but something in her stomach turned to stone. She walked back inside. Jay was sitting at his desk, reading something on a tablet. His posture was perfect, his shirt still pressed, even though it was past midnight. He looked up when she entered, and for a second, she saw something almost human in his face. She held out the phone. He took it, looked at the screen, and stopped breathing. Not a gasp, not a curse, just a complete, unnatural stillness, like something vital had been cut. When was this taken? His voice was flat, the kind of flat that comes right before an avalanche. 5 minutes ago. He stood, walked to the window, looked down at the courtyard where 12 armed men were stationed at every exit. Then he turned back to the phone in his hand. My security system is hardwired, he said slowly. No signal goes in or out unless it's cleared through my encryption. This photo couldn't have been sent unless... He stopped. The tablet slipped from his other hand and hit the floor. It didn't shatter, just made a dull, expensive sound. Monica watched his face. She'd seen him negotiate with people who'd killed for less. She'd watched him end a man's career with a single glance. But right now, Jae Kim Sung looked like someone had just explained death to him for the first time. Unless what? Monica asked. Unless someone installed a device inside my home. Inside his room. The words hung in the air like smoke. Monica should have run. That's what a smart person would do. That's what a person who wanted to wake up tomorrow would do. Instead, she walked to the door of June's room. The hallway was too quiet. Her footsteps didn't echo the way they should. The door handle was cold under her palm. She opened it. The boy was exactly where the photo showed him. Same position, same rabbit, same small, fragile breathing. The window was closed, locked from the inside. The room was on the 3rd floor. No fire escape, no balcony. But someone had been in here. Someone who knew how to plant cameras without triggering alarms. Monica looked up. The smoke detector, the light fixture, the air vent. Any of them could hide a lens the size of a pinhead. She pulled out her phone and took her own photo. June's face, the timestamp. Then she turned and walked back to Jay. He was on his computer now, pulling up security footage. His fingers were moving fast, but his jaw was locked tight. "Show me the hallway," Monica said. He didn't argue, just clicked. The footage played. Empty corridor, 11:47 p.m. The timestamp ticked forward. 11:51. 11:55. Midnight. Nothing. No one entered June's room. "Go back further," Monica said. Days. Weeks. Jay's fingers flew across the keyboard. He pulled up footage from 3 weeks ago, the day after Monica first brought June home, and there it was. The head of security, entering June's room during a routine inspection. He was alone for exactly 4 minutes, long enough to install something small, something that would transmit on a frequency Jay's system wouldn't detect. "Who has access to bypass your encryption?" Monica asked quietly. Jay didn't answer, but his eyes moved to the door, to the hallway where his head of security was supposed to be standing, the man he'd trusted for 8 years, the man who knew every password, every protocol, every blind spot in this glass tower. Monica looked at Jay, really looked at him. And for the first time since she'd met him, she saw fear. Not the fear of losing money, not the fear of losing power, the fear of realizing the weapon was already inside the house. "They're not coming for June tonight," Monica said quietly. "They already proved they can watch him whenever they want. This is a threat. They're saying, 'We own your home now.'" Jay's hand curled into a fist on the desk. "Then what do they want?" Monica looked back at the photo on her phone, at the sleeping child who had no idea he'd been watched in his own bed. "They want you to know," she said, "that you're not the most dangerous person in this building anymore." The lights died. Everyone, and somewhere in the darkness, a door opened. But let me take you back. Back to how Monica Townsend ended up in a Mafia boss's tower, holding tea she didn't ask for, staring at a photo that would change everything. 3 weeks earlier, the humidity in Philadelphia's Kensington district didn't just sit, it rotted. Monica adjusted the strap of her delivery bag, her skin slick with the city's grime and the persistent mist of a 1 drizzle. She was a woman of deliberate movements, a sociology dropout who read body language like a map. She knew that in this neighborhood, the loudest sound was often the one that was missing. That's when she saw him. The boy sat on a stack of abandoned pallets behind a closed seafood market. He wore a crisp white dress shirt and slacks that probably cost more than Monica's monthly rent, now ruined by grease and rain. He didn't cry. He simply stared at a black sedan idling at the end of the alley. Monica stopped her scooter 20 feet away. Watched. The sedan's engine purred, waiting. The boy's hands were clenched in a stillness that shouldn't belong to a 6-year-old. She cut the engine and walked over. "They're waiting for me to stand up," the boy said without looking at her. His voice was hauntingly calm. "If I stand up, they take me. If I stay here, they wait. Please, don't leave me." Monica didn't look at the sedan. She looked at the boy's hands. They weren't shaking, they were controlled in a way that made her chest tight. This was a child who had been taught that vulnerability was a death sentence. "I'm not leaving," Monica said, her voice dropping low. "But we're not staying here. I'm Monica. I'm going to put my helmet on your head. You're going to climb on the back of my bike, and you're going to tuck your hands into my pockets. Do not look back. If you look back, the game is over." The boy looked up at her for the first time. His eyes were ancient. He nodded once. Monica helped him with the helmet. It swallowed his small head. She lifted him onto the scooter, felt his tiny fingers grip her jacket. Then she kicked the engine to life and drove. The sedan followed for 3 blocks. Then it didn't. Monica didn't relax. She took side streets, doubled back twice, and finally pulled into a 2 4-hour gas station where the lights were bright and the cameras were visible. "Where do you live?" she asked. The boy gave her an address. Monica pulled it up on her phone. A converted clock tower on the edge of the Schuylkill River. Not a neighborhood, not even a street, just coordinates. She should have called the police, should have left him at a fire station, should have done 100 things that weren't driving a terrified child to some isolated building in the middle of the night. Instead, she drove. The gates appeared out of nowhere. 12 feet tall, steel and something else reinforced, seamless. As Monica approached, they hissed open without her touching anything. She rolled her battered scooter into the courtyard and stopped. Men in charcoal suits stood at every corner. They didn't move like security guards. They moved like soldiers. And when Monica appeared with the boy on her bike, a silence fell that was heavier than the rain. The elevator doors opened, and he emerged. Jae Kim Sung didn't run to his son. He stopped 10 feet away, his presence a cold, gravitational pull. He was younger than Monica expected, maybe 34, sharp-featured, with eyes that looked like they had seen the end of the world and found it boring. "You are 42 minutes late, June," Jae said. The words were quiet, but they carried the weight of a guillotine. The boy slid off the bike, trembling for the first time. "The driver. He tried to take me to the other house, the one with the men who don't smile." I ran. Jae's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Calculation. Threat assessment. "Which house?" His voice was deadly quiet. "The one with the red door, where the man with the scar comes." Jae's jaw tightened. He knew exactly which house June meant. Chen's safe house. The rival had made his move, testing Jae's defenses through his son. It was bold. It was also a declaration of war. His gaze shifted to Monica. He looked at her worn boots, her faded delivery jacket, and finally, her eyes. Most people looked at Jae and saw a king or a monster. Monica looked at him like he was a problem she was paid to solve. "The driver is being handled," Jae said, his eyes never leaving Monica's. He produced a fountain pen and a checkbook from inside his jacket. "Name your price for the return of my heir." Monica watched him write zeros. She counted 6 before he even looked up. "Keep your paper, Mr. Kim," she said, clipping her helmet back onto her bike. "I didn't bring him back for a reward. I brought him back because he was terrified. And looking at this place, I can see why. It's a very expensive cage. The air in the courtyard turned sub-zero. No one spoke to Jae Kim Sung that way. He stepped closer, his shadow swallowing her. "You have no idea who I am. I know exactly who you are." Monica countered, stepping into his space. "You're a man who has so many enemies he can't even pick his own son up from school. That's not power, that's a prison." She turned, kicked her scooter to life, and drove away without a cent. Behind her, Jae Kim-sung stood in the rain, holding a check that would never be cashed, watching her taillights disappear into the city he thought he controlled. But his mind was already moving. The red door, Chen's safe house. The attempted kidnapping wasn't random. Chen was circling, looking for weaknesses, and he'd found the biggest one, June. 2 nights later, Monica's scooter was crushed in the parking lot of her apartment complex. Not stolen, not vandalized, destroyed. The frame was bent in half like someone had dropped something very heavy on it from a great height. She stood there with her coffee, staring at the wreckage, trying to calculate how many shifts it would take to replace it. Her landlord had already threatened eviction if she was late on rent again. The scooter was her livelihood. Without it, she couldn't make deliveries. Without deliveries, she couldn't eat. The math was simple and brutal. That's when the truck pulled up. A delivery truck. Professional. 2 men in uniforms unloaded something covered in protective padding. They set it down carefully, pulled the covering off, and left without a word. A 0SR-F electric motorcycle. Matte black, silent, worth more than every possession Monica owned combined. Taped to the handlebars was a note on expensive cardstock. The cage has a library. He won't sleep. He asks for the lady with the helmet. Jay. Monica read it 3 times. Her hands were shaking now, not from fear but from anger. This wasn't a gift. It was a chess move. And the destruction of her bike wasn't a threat. It was a forced upgrade. Jay wasn't asking. He was deciding for her. She should have called the police. Should have refused. Should have stayed in her lane and let the rich fix their own problems. But she kept thinking about June. The way his small hand had gripped her jacket. The ancient fear in his 6-year-old eyes. The trembling he tried so hard to hide. She looked at the motorcycle, then at her ruined scooter, then at the note. Monica Townsend had never been good at making smart decisions. She was good at making necessary ones. She put on her helmet and rode. The tower's security was invasive. Fingerprints, retinal scan, a pat-down that was professional but thorough. Monica endured it without comment. They led her to the library. Floor-to-ceiling books, 0 warmth. Everything looked expensive and untouched, like a museum exhibit of what wealthy people thought culture looked like. June sat at a massive desk with a laptop playing Mandarin vocabulary tapes. His posture was perfect. His eyes were exhausted. Monica walked over and closed the laptop. The boy looked up, terrified. "I have to finish the lesson. You have to be 6 years old," Monica said. She pulled cushions off the designer sofas and started building a fort. June watched like she was performing surgery. When she gestured for him to come inside, he hesitated. "I'll get in trouble. Then we'll both get in trouble." June crawled inside. The fort smelled like expensive leather and dust. Monica pulled out her phone and found a nature documentary. Whales. The boy's eyes went wide. "Have you ever seen the ocean?" Monica asked. June shook his head. They watched 3 episodes. June fell asleep halfway through the 3rd, his head against her shoulder. Monica didn't move. She just sat there, holding a child who lived in a tower filled with everything except safety. She didn't hear Jay enter, didn't see him standing in the doorway, frozen, staring at his son, laughing in his sleep for the first time in memory. When she finally looked up, their eyes met. "What is he doing?" Jay asked, not angry, genuinely confused. "He's being a kid." Jay stood there for a long moment, and Monica realized something that made her chest ache. This man wasn't a monster. He was socially amputated. He had no concept of play, only preparation. His tutors can wait, Monica said. Jay didn't argue. He just watched his son sleep in a blanket fort, made from $10,000 furniture, and something in his face cracked. "The driver who tried to take June," Jay said quietly. "He was paid by Chen. A rival. Chen owns the house with the red door. He's trying to prove I'm vulnerable by targeting my son." Monica looked at him. "Are you?" "I'm starting to think I am." Monica didn't want to attend the dinner. Jay insisted. Not as a request, as a quiet, immovable expectation. "June will be there," he said. "He sleeps better when you're nearby, and I need Chen to see that you're under my protection." So she came. The private dining room was all dark wood and dim lighting. 8 men sat around the table. 7 of them looked at Monica like she was a miscalculation. The 8th, Chen, a rival syndicate leader with a scar across his left cheek, looked at her like she was prey. The dinner was theater. Polite conversation in 3 languages. Business discussed in metaphors. Monica sat next to June, cutting his food, ignoring the performance. Halfway through the meal, Chen made a comment in Korean. Laughter rippled around the table. Jay didn't laugh. What did he say? Monica asked quietly. June looked down at his plate. He said, "You're the help." Monica set down her fork. The sound was small but final. Chen leaned back in his chair, still smiling. He said something else in Korean, slower this time, gesturing at Monica like she was furniture. Jay stopped eating. The room went still. Not quiet, the kind of still that happens right before a car crashes. Chen didn't notice. He was too busy enjoying his own performance. "Mr. Chen," Jay said in English. His voice was soft, dangerously soft. "Would you like to repeat that?" Chen's smile faltered. "It was a joke, Kim. Relax." Jay set his chopsticks down. The click sounded like a bone breaking. "This woman," Jay said, his eyes locked on Chen, "is the only person in this room who does not fear me. That makes her the most dangerous person at this table. If you insult her again, I will stop being a businessman and start being a father. You do not want to see the difference." The air left the room. Chen's face went pale. He started to speak, then thought better of it. Around the table, the other men suddenly found their food fascinating. But Monica saw something else. Chen's hand moved to his phone under the table. A quick message. Sent. The rest of the dinner passed in near silence. When it was over, Chen left without saying goodbye. His men followed like shadows. Jay watched them go, his expression unreadable. "Come with me," he said to Monica. It wasn't a request. The balcony was cold. 34 floors above Philadelphia, the wind had teeth. Monica wrapped her arms around herself, wishing she'd brought a jacket. Jay handed her tea. She hadn't asked for it, but it was warm and real in her hands. "You painted a target on my back tonight," Monica said. "I removed one," Jay corrected. "Chen was testing me. If I had let him disrespect you, it would have shown weakness. Weakness invites wolves. I didn't ask you to defend me." "I know." Jay looked out at the city he controlled but could never enjoy. "That's why I did it." Monica took a sip of tea. It was good. Too good. The kind of thing that cost more than it should. "June asked me to stay tonight," she said. "To read to him before bed." Jay nodded. "He hasn't asked for anything in years. And then you show up and suddenly he wants bedtime stories. Is that a problem?" "No." Jay turned to look at her. Really look at her. It's terrifying. The moment stretched between them. Not romance. Something stranger. Two lonely people recognizing each other across an impossible distance. Monica's phone buzzed. She almost didn't look. Almost let the moment last. But something about the buzz felt wrong. Urgent. She pulled out her phone. Unknown number. No message. Just a photo. June. Asleep in his bed. White sheets. The stuffed rabbit she'd given him tucked under his arm. The photo was taken from above, a downward angle. Ceiling perspective. Close enough to see the rise and fall of his chest. Taken 5 minutes ago. Monica's hand didn't shake, but something in her stomach turned to stone. She held out the phone to Jay. He took it, looked at the screen, and stopped breathing. Not a gasp, not a curse, just a complete, unnatural stillness, like something vital had been cut. "When?" His voice was flat. 5 minutes ago. He stood, walked to the edge of the balcony, looked down at the courtyard where 12 armed men were stationed at every exit. Then he turned back, and Monica saw something she'd never seen before. Fear. "My security system is hardwired," he said slowly. "No signal goes in or out unless it's cleared through my encryption. This photo couldn't have been sent unless someone installed a device inside my home." He pulled out his phone, fingers moving fast. Security footage. He pulled up the hallway outside June's room. Recent footage showed nothing unusual. "Go back further," Monica said. "To after I first brought June home." Jay rewound through days of footage. Then he stopped. 3 weeks ago. His head of security entering June's room during what should have been a routine inspection. The man was alone for exactly 4 minutes. Long enough to install a camera. Small, hidden. Transmitting on a frequency Jay's system wouldn't detect. Jay's face went white. His eyes moved to the door. "Lee," he whispered. "My head of security. 8 years I've trusted him. They're not coming for June tonight." Monica said quietly. "They already proved they can watch him whenever they want. This is Chen. He's showing you that he owns your home now, that he can reach June anytime he wants. Then what does he want?" Monica looked at the photo again. At the sleeping child who had no idea he'd been watched in his own bed. "He wants you to know that you're not the most dangerous person in this building anymore." The lights died. Everyone. And somewhere in the darkness, a door opened. Monica's hand found June's doorframe in the dark. She moved inside, low and fast. The room was empty except for June, still sleeping. But the window was cracked open. Fresh air. Someone had been here. Just left. She didn't waste time. Just scooped June up, he woke without a sound and carried him toward the bathroom. Gunfire erupted in the hallway. Suppressed but unmistakable. Monica locked the bathroom door and set June in the tub. Stay here. Do not come out until I knock 3 times. June nodded, already understanding. Monica moved back into the chaos. 3 men in black tactical gear were cutting through Jay's security like they'd memorized the layout, because Lee had given them the blueprints. Every blind spot, every weakness. Jay was pinned behind a marble column at the far end, a gun in his hand. But he wasn't shooting. He was looking at June's room. Cut off. Monica grabbed a fire extinguisher off the wall, pulled the pin, and sprayed it directly into the nearest attacker's face. He went down blind. She took his rifle and swung it like a bat into the second man's knee. The crack was audible. The third turned his weapon on her. Jay shot him twice. Clean. Professional. Silence. Then footsteps on the stairs. More coming. Jay crossed the distance and grabbed her arm, pulling her behind cover. His hand was shaking. Not from adrenaline. From rage. Where is he? Bathroom. Locked. Jay's eyes closed. Relief. Then calculation. Lee? Gone. He let them in. They're heading for the HVAC room. They'll gas the vents. Monica looked at the vent above their heads, then at Jay. I know another way. The ventilation shaft was tight. Monica pulled herself forward on her elbows. June small enough to crawl easily behind her. Jay struggled. Too broad for spaces this narrow. They passed the HVAC room. Through the grate, Monica saw 2 men setting up canisters. Jay stopped, listened to their conversation in Korean. His jaw locked. She heard Chen's name. Instructions to make it look like an accident. The shaft opened into the basement safe room. Monica kicked out the grate and caught June as he dropped through. Jay landed hard, his shoulder bleeding from where a bullet had grazed him during the firefight. You're hit. Grazed. But he leaned against the wall anyway. Human. Exhausted. June sat between them on the concrete floor, holding Monica's hand. Above them, the building was silent, waiting. Jay made calls from the safe room. Quiet, brutal conversations. His remaining loyal men were already moving. By the time dawn broke, the situation was clear. Lee, the head of security, had been found trying to flee the city. They caught him at the train station with 3 passports and Chen's money stuffed in a duffel bag. He didn't resist. He knew what happened to traitors in Jay's world. By noon, Lee no longer existed as anything but a cautionary tale. The attackers who survived were in custody. Under interrogation, they confirmed what Jay already knew. Chen had orchestrated everything. The attempted kidnapping, the planted camera, the breach. All to prove Jay was vulnerable, to drive down his reputation before making a move on his territory. Chen himself had disappeared, gone to Seoul, beyond Jay's immediate reach. But Jay's network was vast, and patience was something he'd learned young. It's over, one of Jay's lieutenants said through the phone. The building is secure. Chen's assets here are frozen. His allies are distancing themselves. Jay ended the call and looked at Monica. She was sitting against the wall with June asleep in her lap, her clothes covered in dust and soot from the vents. He should have felt victorious. He'd survived an assassination attempt, exposed a traitor, beaten back a rival. Instead, he felt hollow. I almost lost him, Jay said quietly. His voice cracked on the last word. I built all of this to keep him safe, and I almost lost him in his own bed. Monica looked at him. Really looked at him. You didn't lose him. He's right here. Because of you. Jay stood, tried to put distance between himself and what he was feeling. Take the bike. Take the money. Go. You almost died because of me. Monica carefully moved June to the cot one of the guards had brought down, then stood, looked at Jay, and slapped his hand away from the checkbook he was reaching for. I almost died because your world is broken, she said, not because I was weak. Jay's mouth opened, closed. You can't fix this by throwing money at it. Monica continued. You can't fix this by building higher walls or hiring more men with guns. You want June safe? Then you need to stop raising him to be you. What are you saying? I'm saying I'm not leaving. Monica crossed her arms. But I'm not working for you either. If I stay, I'm staying as June's moral architect. I will teach him to be strong without being cold, to be smart without being cruel. And you're going to listen to me. Not because I'm an employee, because I'm right. Jay stared at her like she'd just spoken a language he'd forgotten existed. "Why?" he finally asked. "Why would you stay in a world this dangerous?" Monica looked at June, asleep on the cot, still holding the stuffed rabbit. "Because he asked me not to leave," she said, "and I keep my promises." Jay's shoulders dropped. Just slightly. The armor cracking. "I don't know how to do what you're asking." "Then learn," Monica said. "Or watch your son turn into you and hate himself for it." The words landed like a blade. Jay looked at his son, at the woman who'd just torn down every wall he'd built. And for the first time in his adult life, he made a decision that wasn't about power. "Okay," he said. "Teach me." The first week was the hardest. Jay didn't know how to be present without being in control. He would watch Monica with Jun reading stories, building things with blocks, teaching him to name his feelings and look completely lost. "Why does he need to name them?" Jay asked one afternoon. "Feelings are weaknesses enemies exploit. Feelings are information," Monica corrected. "June knowing he's scared doesn't make him weak. It makes him smart. Fear tells you when something's wrong. If you teach him to ignore it, he'll walk into danger thinking he's being brave." Jay was silent for a long time. "My father never let me cry," he finally said. "I know," Monica said. "And look where that got you. A glass tower full of guards, and no one you can trust." It wasn't kind, but it was true. Jay started showing up for bedtime, just standing in the doorway while Monica read, then sitting in the chair. Then, one night, June asked him to do the voices for the dragon in the story. Jay looked at Monica. She nodded. He did the voice. It was terrible. June laughed so hard he got hiccups. And Jae Kim-sung, who controlled empires with a phone call, smiled. By the third week, the tower felt different. Not softer, just less suffocating. June was sleeping through the night. Jay was learning that his presence could be comfort instead of judgment, and Monica was starting to realize she wasn't leaving. One evening, Jay found her on the balcony. Not the same balcony from that terrible night he'd had that whole wing renovated. This one faced east, toward the sunrise. "I got word about Chen," Jay said. "He's in Seoul, out of reach for now." "For now?" "He'll surface again," Jay said simply. "And when he does, I'll be waiting. But for now my son is learning to laugh. That matters more." He handed her a mug of tea. She took it. "June asked me today what I was like when I was his age," Jay said. "I couldn't answer him. I don't remember being 6. I only remember being afraid." Monica didn't speak, just listened. "I don't want that for him," Jay continued. "I don't know how to give him something I never had, but I want to try." Monica looked at him, at the man who was slowly learning to be human. "Then we'll figure it out together," she said. It wasn't a promise, it was a choice. 3 months later, the tower had been transformed in small ways that added up to everything. Monica had converted the east sunroom into a nursery, not for babies, for living things. Plants in terracotta pots, succulents that June was learning to care for, soil under fingernails, life that didn't need armed guards. She was teaching him how to transplant a jade plant when Jay appeared in the doorway. He'd started doing that, appearing, not announcing himself, just being present. "Roots need dark to grow, June," Monica said, guiding his small hands. "But leaves need light. Everything needs balance." June nodded seriously, like she'd just explained physics. Jay watched them. The woman in her worn jeans and his son in his expensive clothes that were now permanently stained with dirt. The contrast should have been jarring. Instead, it looked like the only real thing in the building. "Can I help?" Jay asked. Monica looked up, smiled, pushed a pot toward him. Jae Kim-sung, a man who controlled empires with a phone call, knelt on the floor, his suit pants immediately soaked through with potting soil. He didn't seem to notice, or care. Monica showed him how to hold the plant, how to settle the roots without crushing them. June watched his father's hands, the same hands that had ended careers, and possibly lives, gently tucking soil around something fragile. "My sociology professor used to say something," Monica said quietly, more to herself than them. "The strongest trees have the deepest roots, but even deep roots need soft earth to grow in. No amount of armor can replace what we need most: connection. The real kind, the vulnerable kind." She looked at Jay, he looked back, and something passed between them that didn't need words. Outside, the city hummed. Dangerous, beautiful, uncontrollable. But in this room, 3 people who shouldn't have found each other were building something that armor couldn't protect, and money couldn't buy. Family. Monica's battered delivery helmet sat on the pristine glass table in the corner. Scratched. Out of place. Permanent. June looked up from his plant, dirt smudged on his cheek. Monica, will you always be here? Monica glanced at Jay. He was watching her with an expression she'd never seen before. Hope. Always is a long time, Monica said carefully. But I'm not going anywhere today. Or tomorrow. Or the day after that. Is that enough? June considered this with the seriousness of someone much older. Yes, he decided. That's enough. Jay reached over and tucked a loose strand of hair behind Monica's ear. The gesture was small, careful, new. Thank you, he said quietly, for staying. Monica didn't answer with words, just squeezed his hand once before turning back to the plants. Some families are born, others are forged in rain and soil, and the choice to stay when leaving would be easier. They're built in the quiet moments between danger, in the space where broken people learn to grow and powerful people learn to kneel. If you want to remain in these shadows with us, where the damaged become whole and the untouchable learn to feel, subscribe to Velvet Noir. Turn on notifications. The next story is already waiting in the dark, and it's wondering if you're brave enough to follow. Here's a question for you. If you could teach someone powerful one lesson about being human, what would it be? Drop your answer in the comments below. I read every single one, and your wisdom might just inspire the next story. Sweet dreams.